Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Here's a post from XRP Crypto Wolf on social media platform X. The XRP community hasn't been this frustrated and in despair since March 2020 when XRP's price hit 10 cents. Now, folks, I was there in March 2020 when XRP hit 10 cents, and yes, sentiment was abysmal. Now, I wasn't sad. I was scooping up close to the low. The cheapest I ever bought XRP was around that time. I didn't catch the actual bottom of 10 cents, but I was able to purchase as low as 15 cents. And so frequently, the good news is when we're in these moments in time where sentiment is abysmal, very frequently that marks bottoms. So there's reason to think, and that's not the only reason, that's one single thing. So in a vacuum, you wouldn't only consider that. I'm just saying, it's one thing to consider against a backdrop of other things very well worth considering that indicate we very well may be moving much higher. In fact, I want to share with you, perhaps, since there's so much negative sentiment out there, maybe share with you a case for why it is possible that XRP could be hitting a new high in 2024. Of course, it's been 6 years, a little over 6 years since XRP hit its last all-time high, and as I frequently say, I firmly believe that XRP would have hit a new all-time high last market cycle if not for the SEC, but I don't want to get into that. Let's consider what's going on a macro level. And there is an article that was shared by XRP community member Frecky, who, by the way, has been in crypto since 2011, and he actually works in the world of finance. He has an actual financial background, so he is in the know and always knowledge hungry. And he shared this article on X and tagged me in it. So thank you very much for tagging this. I read this article and I found it incredibly fascinating. It's titled, "This is the best U.S. economy since the 1990s." So I want to run through this also, big chunks of it anyway, because it's fascinating. It's kind of like I was saying a few days or so ago. I love all of the analysis that the chart guys put out there, but what's not always sufficiently factored in is what's happening on a macro level against the rest of the backdrop. Is it really bad or is it really good? And this particular article, written by an actual financial analyst, he makes the argument that this is pretty much the best economy that we've had in decades. And he even argues that if the Fed cuts rates, he's actually not convinced that we're going to be seeing, decimation, when it comes to what happens in the stock market. And there is historic precedent for that, as he points out. So, in a sea of scary sounding news and concerns of the Fed cutting rates and everything's going to be a disaster and we're, whatever's going to happen, we're entering a new depression or whatever it may be, just want to share with you a positive message, because if you want your XRP to hit a new all-time high, and this is a requirement as far as I'm concerned, because that's what history shows us, you need to have things very strong on a macro level. Bitcoin will move in tandem with what's happening with equities, and XRP moves in tandem with Bitcoin. So if you want the best case possible for XRP to be hitting a new all-time high, potentially even this year, don't just look at the chart. Definitely, again, I appreciate the chart guys. You know that. And I'm sure many of you guys do too. But don't only look at that, because sometimes that's just going to scare the hell out of you anyway. You need to consider other factors here. And so I'm just stating that you might appreciate some of this. By the way, in the short term, I did want to highlight this real quick. Credible Crypto chart analyst, he seems to be convinced that what's most probable is we are going to be moving up here in the short term. He doesn't think it's likely we're going to have another flush out to the downside. And so he shared this chart and wrote, just this afternoon, by the way, spot Bitcoin once again trading at a consistent premium, one of the best/most consistent indicators of a local bottom formation. Just further confluence that our bottom is in my opinion. And so even if we do see a flush to the downside, which he admits is possible, it does nothing to change what he thinks is going to happen this year in terms of Bitcoin hitting a new all-time high. Then there was this perspective from chart analyst Greg Crypto. And he wrote the following. And by the way, again, I never make price predictions. I'm never going to, because if it's me, since I'm not a chart guy, I'd just be making stuff up. I don't want to do that. I ain't playing that game. For me, it's just a general bet that number go up. As they say in crypto, number go up. I think Bitcoin's going to be worth more. I think XRP is going to be worth way more. I think XRP is going to substantially outpace Bitcoin's returns. And so the price levels cited here, although I don't know if they're going to happen, they don't sound crazy, perhaps not even for this market cycle, even the highest one. So check this out. He wrote XRP 21 EMA monthly time frame. Measuring move guideline. To kick off these measured moves, I assess the movement when XRP price is positioned either above or on the 21 EMA. Now picture this. If we use the same percentage move from previous instances at A, B, and C, and for those of you not looking at the screen, he's got moves dating back to 2017. And so even though you can't see the months on here, just knowing the history the way that I do it, even though I'm not a chart guy, this move has got to be the one that I think started in April 2017, where XRP went from the beginning of the year like half a penny up to a little over 42 cents, and then it went back down. Because that was the biggest percentage move. The biggest percentage move for XRP for 2017, it was actually that one in April. Going from half a penny up to over 42 cents. Yeah. Now, of course, when it went from about 20 cents to almost $4, that's when the true euphoria kicked in at the end of 2017, and that really, that icing on the cake, I'll say. But the biggest percentage move was actually A. And then you can see B, that would be, looks like late 2017 into 2018. And then you've got right around 2021, which is the last market high, another move which was smaller in terms of percentage. Obviously, XRP didn't hit a new all-time high, and there's a different starting point, from a low for that cycle. So anyway, he says the following. If we use the same percentage move from the previous instances, A, B, and C, here's what we might see next. A would be $27. That's a massive 4,500% jump. Now, again, not predicting that's going to happen, and I'm less optimistic we're going to be seeing that this cycle, but I have to admit, as reserved as I am, it is absolutely possible that could happen if we have some sort of insane run in crypto with all the maniac stuff and the laser hands and what is it? The laser hands, laser eyes and the diamond hands, all that crap. It's not crazy stuff happens in crypto. It's possible. I'd be more optimistic for that to happen in a separate market cycle, but yes, I don't think that sounds remotely crazy here. And then B, I'm thinking that doesn't sound bullish enough. Again, he's just pulling from data though, but it would be $6.50, 1,000% increase. Well, again, no price prediction, but I hope it's a lot higher than that. And then C, $3.50, which would be a 500% rise. So at least that would put you in the realm of a new XRP all-time high. So we'll still be thrilled even when we get to that point. I'm just saying it better not stop there. And so if you do want to see that new all-time high, let's talk about a couple things. And so again, thank you very much to Frecky for sharing this piece here. But I do want to say a couple things up front, because there are people right now that are very genuinely scared, and I understand why. That if what some people are saying is true and things are going to go down, people's net worth's going to go down, what's that going to look like? What are the crypto holdings going to look like? I understand it instills fear. And so I just want to share with you some thoughts on that, and then I want to go through some select portions in this. And you are going to love this article, so if you've got time, please stick around through the end of this video. You're really going to like this one, and there's so much data in here. You need to hear this point of view, honestly. But look, generally speaking, it doesn't make sense to be worried about a potential recession or market collapse, generally speaking. You can never know for sure if such things are going to happen. So imagine a recession hits. The economy retracts. Some people lose jobs, but the vast majority of people will not lose their job. That's what the data shows. It's a small percentage of humans that will lose their jobs, lose opportunity. Remember, though, opportunity does not cease to exist in a recession. It's just reduced to a degree, which is, typically small actually in terms of percentages. It's just reduced opportunity overall across the board for the economy, right? So, you're likely going to have an income if a recession hits. Most people are not going to get hammered just because a recession comes. Yes, and obviously, and to be clear, the state of the economy is different than the stock market. I understand that. So I'm speaking broadly about both. And so, yes, that little qualifier being stated now. Yes, if stocks tank and crypto tanks, everything's in the gutter, then as a result of that, your net worth will be down to some degree. Whether it's big or small, it'll be down, right? That sounds scary. I get that. But unless you're counting on living off your existing investments right now, will it really matter to you? Will you still be able to put food on the table? Do you have an income? Most people still will. Almost everybody still will. Unless you're talking about Great Depression stuff. you know. But as long as the answer is yes, and you can still put food on the table, you have an income, it makes sense to recognize the opportunity that down markets will bring. Stocks will be on sale. Cryptocurrencies will be on sale. You can continue to invest, and you'll be well positioned for when markets rebound. Even if you are living off retirement investments. So say you're at that stage in your life, and so then it sounds extra scary. My God, recession, what is this? I'm living off my investments. Well, can you get by if a down market only lasts, 12 months or 18 months? Can you? I mean, I hope so. If you're retired, hopefully that you're accounting that there are going to be some down years. Hopefully you've already factored that in. And by the way, recessions only last 10 months on average if you look at the data going back to like 1945. 10 months. Can you make it through? And so trying to time markets is one of the most foolish things a person can do when it comes to investing. It makes way more sense to have a long-term view. And that's why I invest for my retirement, regardless of whether markets are up or down, because I've always got money coming in. I'm doing stuff. So I regularly put new money I earn towards retirement, regardless of the economic backdrop of the moment. Because look, it all comes out in the wash. Meaning if you are sometimes buying high, and then the market tanks, so then whatever you just bought, it's worth less than when you bought it. Okay, that happens. Or you're buying low, and then the market picks up. It all ends up averaging out. It all comes out in the wash. And I think too many people are fearful of investing, out of concern there will be a recession or market correction soon. Well, guess what? Whether that happens or not doesn't matter in the end. It genuinely doesn't. What matters is investing over a prolonged period of time. So get rid of any fear you may have about economic unknowns and market unknowns. You'll be fine. And there's always a path forward. There's always opportunity for all of you listening to this video right here, right now. The opportunity isn't going to cease to exist. And so as far as XRP specifically, whether it happens now because, as the data here indicates, as I'm about to reveal, let's say that this guy, the way he's clearly leaning is correct, and the market's going to heat up, and then Bitcoin follows, and so does XRP. Whether that happens now and this is the moment, even in the worst case scenario, we're still going to get ours. It's not like this is going to cease to exist, even if there is some sort of pullback, which typically is fairly temporary. But there's good reason to think, actually, if you're looking at more than just charts, there's good reason to think that we are in for one hell of a year in 2024. And so that's why I was saying at the outset of the video, the case to make, the argument to make for a new all-time high for XRP, it can be summed up by looking at the macro backdrop, which is what this guy is talking about. And he's sharing actual data, which shows that it's looking pretty damn good. This is his argument. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with you what he has to say about the Fed cutting rates, because he's basically saying, like, with the economic backdrop we have now, this is not the same as when the Fed cut rates and the market was tanking in the past. And so anyway, we'll get to it though. So, and I'm going to read select portions of this, but so check this out. It's titled, "This is the best U.S. economy since the 1990s. The economy just grew at a real rate of 3.3% in the fourth quarter, following 4.9% annualized real growth in Q3. And then he shares a chart there. For those of you that do care to look, this would be a good video to do that, but if not, I'll just try and make sure that I'm sufficiently describing what's going on here if I feel the need to, because I know a lot of people just do listening, which is what I do like frequently when I'm listening to podcasts that are videos on YouTube. I'm frequently walking my dog or driving, or I'm at the gym or something like that. But anyway, he continues. Wages are growing at more than 5%, and inflation is around 3%. So that's good, folks, because it's not fun when, even if you get a pay raise, say wages are growing, so you say you get a pay raise of 5%. Well, in a world where inflation is 10%, you are poor. Like, Your purchasing power, not so great anymore. But now he's saying here, data shows, wages up 5% and inflation is up 3%. So the difference between that is 2%, as he writes here. So we're talking 2% real wage growth and 6% nominal economic growth. People were worried about a repeat of the 1970s. The current environment looks more like the 1990s economy than the 1970s. Obviously, there are plenty of differences between the current environment and the 1990s boom times, some bad, some good. The unemployment rate is still below 4%, a level it never breached in the 1990s. The unemployment rate averaged nearly 6% in the 1990s. It closed out the decade right at 4%, but never went below that level in the decade. Government debt is a lot higher now than it was back then. $34 trillion is a lot of money. And so, folks, and I will say, and I've said this on the channel before, and I'll say it again even right now, while acknowledging the point he's about to make here. The debt, spending like this is unsustainable. The government needs to get its fiscal house in order. This is completely unacceptable. It's a waste of money. It's irresponsible. That being said, if you look at where we are right now, it's pure data. I understand the point that he's making. And so he writes here, and this is fascinating. He says, but look at interest expense as a percentage of GDP. It's rising at a fast clip because the Fed raised interest rates, but it was much higher in the 1990s. We need to get our spending under control at some point, but this is not the crisis some people would have you believe. Right, and so in terms of, in absolute terms, if you just look at the dollar figure, this is the worst it's ever been. In absolute terms, unquestionably, that's the case. But if you look at, this is the point that he's making right here, if you look at the interest expense as a percentage of GDP, he's saying it was worse in the 90s. That's an interesting fact, is it not? I actually hadn't heard anybody say that before, to be honest with you. It's fascinating. And of course, you need to look at things in relative terms, so this is useful. Obviously, even at, $34 trillion in debt, which I find completely unacceptable, well, just to paint the picture of how it, you need to, not look in just absolute terms. Imagine if the economy were 6 times bigger. That would make, the debt a much smaller percentage, right? And so we'd be a bigger juggernaut, but it would be less consequential, right? And so what he's saying here is if you just, look at what it was in the 90s, it was worse as a percentage. It's just one more metric to be aware of. That's what he's saying here. And he continues. A similar picture emerges when you look at consumer debt levels. Consumer balance sheets are in a much better place now than they were in the 1990s when it comes to debt levels. What about the deficit? It blew out during the pandemic, of course, but it's now back to levels that are closing in on what we saw in the 1990s. And there's a chart showing that as well right on the screen. The biggest difference between now and the 1990s is we had far better music and movies back then. The 1990s are to Gen X and older millennials as the 1960s are to baby boomers. Luckily, we have better TV shows today and the ability to watch them on giant HD TVs. Well, hopefully ultra high definition 4K. Just HD? What are you doing, man? You living in like 2010? But I digress. Anyway, he says, the second biggest difference between now and the 1990s is probably sentiment. And this is interesting too. Because look, if you've been in the world of crypto for a while, you know this is something that we talk about, right? I mean, I started the video kind of talking about sentiment. It's in the gutter, but isn't that frequently something that is a good indicator that things are going to be rebounding? Because you don't stay in either euphoria or in abysmal spirits forever, right? And so he says here, and this is interesting, people were euphoric in the 1990s. Sentiment numbers have rebounded in recent months, but it's wild to see numbers in 2022 lower than the Great Financial Crisis or the 1970s. And let me just jump down a little bit further here, and let's just jump into what he has to say about the Fed. I think this is where I wanted to jump in right here. Yeah, there we go. This is fascinating. Because again, he's not. And you'll see, like he ultimately doesn't claim that he knows what's going to happen if the Fed cuts rates, and he says nobody does. But the point he's making out is that yes, there had been instances where there had been rate cuts, and I've talked about this on the channel many times because it is true. But he's saying, well, there have been other times where there have been rate cuts, and there wasn't some sort of collapse occurring, and so check this out, and this is what ties it all together. And so, if you want the most optimistic case for XRP hitting a new all-time high in 2024, if this guy if his leaning, as I suppose is the case, if he's correct, and things just keep on going up, you should expect Bitcoin and XRP to fall. Like, why wouldn't that be the case? Because equities and cryptos, they're risk-on assets, and they're treated the same in a general sense, like in terms of directionally what's going on. So, if equities are going to keep pumping, as you would expect based on these types of parameters, if the case this guy's making ends up being the one that plays out, why the hell wouldn't it happen? And even if we're not nailing the timeline, it can't be that far off, right? So here's the case he makes, and it reads as follows. This might be good news for the Fed in terms of inflation, but it's bad news for workers. As always, there is give and take with these things. The good news is the Fed has some room to lower interest rates should the labor market cool off considerably. The strange thing about the prospect of Fed rate cuts is the stock market is at all-time highs. Usually, the Fed is cutting rates when the stock market is getting wrecked. The last time the Fed cut rates was during the pandemic when the world was falling apart. They also cut in 2018 when we had a mini bear market towards the end of the year. Before that, the Fed cut rates to 0% during the Great Financial Crisis. This time around, the Fed was raising rates as the stock market was crashing, and now they're likely going to lower them after stocks have recovered. The last time the Fed was cutting interest rates during a time when the stock market was charging higher was, you guessed it, the 1990s. And so there you go. That ties together his argument. That's why the headline of this piece is what it is. This is the best U.S. economy since the 1990s. That ties it together. That's why he's saying it. So even if the Fed cuts rates, as pretty much everybody under the sun is expecting to happen, what he's saying is, although... And he acknowledges a little bit later in the article. I gave you the meat of what was covered here, though. So even though he does acknowledge, he doesn't know for sure, he says nobody does, though. It's almost like we're in unknown territory, because the last time he saw something even close to this, it was the 1990s. And 1990s, it was just, rampaging upwards, right? That was generally speaking, pretty fantastic in that sense, right? So, again, as I'll always keep telling you, if you want to know what your beloved XRP or crypto of choice is going to do, look at what's happening on a macro scale. What's happening that would impact equities ultimately. And again, obviously, like I said a little bit earlier on, of course, the economy is different than the stock market, as evidenced by the fact that ultimately, yeah, there was that big plunge. He kind of cited that here when you had the pandemic. There was that plunge, but then what happened? Money printer go burr. And then stocks recovered rather quickly, as arguably the economy was getting a bit weaker. Of course it was. Because think about that. Stocks were going up as businesses were shut down. So obviously, the stock market is not the same thing as the economy. I understand that. But it's not as if there's no correlation, right? It's not as if there's no correlation. So it's a reason to be optimistic. I think that this is a good case to make here. We'll see what happens. We've had too much doom and gloom lately, so I wanted to, share with you something that is based in data. It's based in fact, with a bit of personal perspective on it. But it paints the case for sunshine and rainbows and puppies and ice cream and all that crap. Because otherwise, is it the case that everything's chugging along great, and then the Fed does this and then everything goes to hell? If it happens, okay, it could. It's cause for concern because it's happened in the past. But if you look at it in the context of what he's stating, I'm not pretending to know. All I'm saying is, I think he makes a compelling case. I don't know everything. You don't either. Nobody does. But I like to share on this channel opposing viewpoints since that is the case. I don't just want to, come to some sort of opinion and then stick my head in the sand and then refuse to accept new data. That is not the type of person I am. I'm the type that will always accept new data because I want to believe as many true things as possible. That's what I'm always striving towards here. And so I think there's more reason than not to be optimistic for tons of reasons. And so there's a reason I wanted to harp on this in this video. It's because it's of crucial importance. This is a requirement. Again, equities maintaining, that move to the upside. Yes, that's if that doesn't happen, I think that we're going to be in trouble. But there's a case to be made that is going to happen, which is a primary reason I wanted to make this video. So anyway, shout out again to Frecky for sharing this because I found this incredibly enlightening, and I hope that you all did too. That's why I wanted to share it with you. But I'll go ahead and wrap up here. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.